We're going to have a panel now about how technology is influencing game development, and I want to invite on stage Aneta, Dayan, Ilya, Eremeev, Richard Rouse III, and Tara Bryant for our panel, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Aneta, and I'm going to host this panel today. I'm part of the PG Connects team. We will discuss how technological advancements such as AI, VR, and AR can be used to create more personalized and immersive gaming experiences. We have a bunch of experts who joined us today, and I would like them to introduce themselves shortly to you now.
Hi, my name is Tara Bryant. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Optimove, so it's really great to be here.
Hi, my name is Ilya. I'm one of the co-founders and a managing partner of the Games Fund, early stage VC gaming fund.
Hey, my name's Richard Rouse. I'm the studio creative director at FarBridge. We're a PC, console, VR, etc. studio. It's remote.
Hi, I'm Dayan of Masquerade Media. We're a game and gamification company, and I'm the CEO.
Thank you very much. Do we have more microphones? My first question for you guys will be, how have technological advancements such as AI, VR, and AR impacted the gaming industry in recent years? We can start with Dayan, maybe. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say AR is probably the most significant right now, just because AI is still making traction here. But just the experiences that you can have with AI are making a big difference in games, because you're bringing the virtual world into the real world in mixed reality. So in that case, when you have an environment that a player is familiar with, like their room or something like that, and you introduce those elements, now all of a sudden that experience becomes catered to them.
Cool. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. We haven't done an AR project at FarBridge yet, but we have done a bunch of VR projects, so I could speak to that a bit. It's definitely a transformative experience for like the type of game you're making. It's not just, let's just take this game and put it in VR. You really have to rethink the whole thing to adopt that, or the audience now. I think in the early days of VR, it was more just like, I'm in VR and that's enough. And then it got to the point where there's conventions to what works in VR in games. There's different segments to like the VR audience, like people who will play for hours and hours and hours, and people who really want a short thing that they get in and out of. And just sort of knowing what audience you're looking at and tailoring your game to them, and the advancement of obviously with VR, you're always dealing with sort of barriers to entry in terms of, getting your hardware to work that time, because there's usually some weirdness with it. That's gotten a lot better recently with like the Quest as an all-in device. People definitely prefer that. And then just like, figuring out, again, what other barriers there can be in terms of like getting it comfortable, so people who might get nauseous in VR. And there's been a lot of learnings about best practices to get it to feel like a thing. So I feel like it's a real platform. I don't think it's as big or it's a real sort of media, real segment of gaming, but maybe not as big as other ones, but there's definitely a dedicated audience there that loves it. So I think it's probably the most mature of any of the three things in terms of usage. So,
thank you.
I think we still to figure out how VR, AR, blockchain, AI will affect the mainstream gaming industry, because it delivers the unique experience and it kind of introduces us to something that we never experienced before. But what it taught us, the main thing is that there are hype cycles, and even if people are getting excited about a particular technology at some point, doesn't mean, and even if that's a brilliant technology, it doesn't mean that it would affect the mainstream game development industry. So we saw kind of hype waves for VR, AR, for blockchain, Web3, now experiencing the AI hype cycle. And it kind of taught us as investors to kind of cool down a little bit about hype waves and be more cautious about, is it really something groundbreaking and that would change the core of the industry, or just a new shiny toy that just temporary thing. That's so on a meta level. That was groundbreaking and reformed the industry and how investors and developers see the market. But from practical perspective, I don't think that actually that transformative for the industry.
Okay. Tara, do you want to add something?
Yeah,
to that?
sure. So my company is not a developer, or we don't create games, but what we do is we've been using AI for over 10 years. So for us, it's we're excited that people are finally catching on. So it helps us. We don't have to explain what AI is, and trust me, it really does work. It's right. It's pretty accurate. So we are the first customer-led marketing platform, and what we do is we help retain, monetize, and customize the marketing to your players. And so our AI has been, like I said, we've been doing this for over a decade. So for us, we're really excited about it. The VR and the IR doesn't, necessarily relate to us.
Great, thank you. So we move to the next question. My next question will be, what are some benefits of using AI in game development, and how can it be used to create more personalized gaming experience?
So I can start. So recently we've been kind of considering investment in one company developing interactive story games. And we've been in a deep discussion how generative AI, how AI in general could affect the development and the production and the marketing of the interactive story games. And we came up with a conclusion that the benefit of AI could be in implementing ever-changing and self-evolving content. So the game itself would learn how you play it, how the massive audience would play it, and analyze which part of the game is exciting, which part of the game is not that exciting and leads to some drops in engagement, and could automatically fix it and run running ABC tests and implement like a genetic algorithm. And that would be something that was not possible before. So before that, some analysts, some game designers should proactively conduct a test and decide what should be done, what should be changed in the game. But evolution worked the different way. It's kind of a brute force testing. And I think that something like that could be done with AI technology. And we'll find, organically, we'll find the best way how to create the most engaging story, the most engaging gameplay, the most converting tutorial for the game, and stuff like that. That's something that was not seen before, and that's possible now.
Yeah, I can sort of, yeah, that's very well said. And one of the things that we've done, obviously we've been doing this for a long time, and we've been working with gamers for years, is you can give that insight and tell them, Bob really enjoys this part of the game. This is where he's going to be the most engaged, or he's most likely to, to buy more or to upstock his deposit. So it's definitely a way for us to be able to it be more personalized versus you're just driving the campaign towards them, throw this at everybody and see what sticks. Using the AI and understand it's truly personalized, and you're starting with each player, each customer. And when you start with them personally, then it's very tailored towards them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, when I always think about using a new technology, I guess I'm careful to think of how is this going to make the experience better for the player? And I think some of the examples you gave are good there. There's definitely a thinking of oh, well, now I can just write, say if you're using ChatGPT to just write quests or something like that. Anyone who's used it has seen that well, yeah, I can write a quest, but it's not really a great quest. It's kind of, is you have to think well, wow, I wrote this so quickly. That's impressive. But the player doesn't care that you wrote it quickly. They just care if it's good or not, right? And they've got a lot of things to pick from, and their time is very precious to them, and they're willing to spend money to have a better experience. So yeah, it can be helpful to you in making stuff, but you got to be careful in knowing that, well, to be better, we're going to have to do better than everyone else who has this tool, and that's where, using the tool well, or no, using it just as an early prototyping thing, but then you replace it with custom, well-made work, because players can tell. That's why, the people who are good at game development get paid more than the people who are less good at it, and it's the same thing here. You've got to figure out, how are we going to get something players care about with this? And I think modifying difficulty, I think being more responsive to what players do, that's all great. But at the end of the day, the content's got to be super high quality.
Yeah, I'd say, all these different tools, they've made a lot of impact already, and it's kind of slow, but, we've already seen generative textures and all kinds of things in production. And probably in the future, it's not like these things are going to replace jobs, but they're an assist, right? Even if you write something in Chat GPT, right? It's going to be a base, right? Now you've solved the problem. Now you can, the real programmer can go in and say, oh, okay, there's some good ideas here, and I can put this in. It's kind of more of a general survey, right? And the same thing with artists or anything like that, like I did in my last talk, there's going to be better tools for, for characters, technical jobs like, character rigging and those kind of things. A lot of those things will be more automated, I think, in the future, and nobody's going to really miss doing those kind of tasks.
That's interesting. So we will change for VR and AR now. So my question would be, how can VR and AR be used to create more immersive gaming experiences? And what are some of the challenges of incorporating this technology into game development? What do you think?
So I think that one of the most impressive things about VR, it's that you totally immerse in the experience. You kind of believe it. You don't even know that you are inside the game, and that you perceive what you see as reality. What I think the downside of VR is it's a dead end of headsets. I don't believe in wearing headsets, even the most beautiful ones, like the thing that Apple would announce soon. I don't think that before we actually translate and transmit information directly to our consciousness without any kind of media as eyes and stuff like that, we would not achieve the truly, seamless and popular VR AR experience. So we can, at the current stage, we could understand how to create mechanics for VR experiences, how to navigate, how to come up with the controls, how to get with the motion sickness, how to deal with that. But I think it should be in some radical different level to get really a thing. So right now we can just learn some design blocks and understand how, from gameplay perspective, from design perspective, it could be done. But it's not gonna be mainstream while we wearing this weird stuff on our heads.
Yeah, I think it's important as you look at like different places people play games to just think of VR as another place people play games. It's not a replacement for other places. Jesse Schell, the game designer, talks about like, the PC experience is like, it's a personal experience because you're not really doing it collaborative. Like you're playing a PC game, it's sort of like your workbench tooling on the game, and there's a lot of options, a lot of ways to play it, versus like playing a game on a console, on a couch in the living room of your house, where maybe there's other people there who might come and watch you or hang out. Or it's more of a shared experience. It's more open. It's a little less, since it's on a console, it usually just works, less options. So that's a different experience. And the VR is sort of like, I think he called it the reading nook. It's like when you read a book, you're just reading the book by yourself. You're really in it. You're completely immersed in that world. And VR is almost more like that because you're just completely absorbed in that. And it's not better or worse than the other ones. It's just another place. And yeah, more people watch TV than read books, probably. So it's like to your point that I think VR is maybe it's a certain segment, but the people who love it, really love it. And yeah, I think as each of these things come along and people who've been doing this a while see these hype cycles like you were talking about this platform, it's going to change everything. Everything's going to be this. Like it's never everything's going to be this. It's always like what choices do players have.
Yeah, I'd say, the interesting thing about VR is that VR is actually not new at all. What's new is the commercialization of the devices. When I did my first VR game with Disney a long time ago, which I don't want to admit how long ago, but Disney Quest, no relation to the Quest device, but then you needed a workstation the size of a refrigerator. Now you can fit it in your phone. So what's really innovative is just the use or the availability. Instead of a theme park ride now, everybody can have this device and use it. I agree that the future of it is probably not in the headsets. It's going to be in something else, some way of projecting this environment around you without wearing a headset. But for now, this is what we're using. And so what's cool about any of these things is like, okay, yeah, mobile's the biggest marketplace, right? But if you're in a smaller marketplace, you can be seen. So if you're making games for VR, right? Maybe there's not a lot of headsets out there compared to phones, but there's definitely a dedicated base there, and you have the ability to kind of hone in and focus on what's going to make a great VR game, because it's not like just taking another game and turning it to VR.
Thank you. So, how do player expectations and preferences impact the use of the technology in game development? And how can developers ensure that they are meeting these expectations?
I don't know. I'm not sure that I got the question. Can you rephrase
Repeat?
it?
Yeah. Rephrase?
You can use ChatGPT.
Okay, so you can go with, yeah, you made me like not understand my question in a moment. So,
I can say a little
Yeah.
something. I think like each platform does bring like, I think you were talking about like expectations of what players have for different technology. And again, in VR, because it is more mature than you might think, you know, it has been around a while and the new cycle of VR hype has been around a while. As something matures like that, it does come with more expectations. Like if you pick up a first-person shooter on a console, you expect the sticks to work a certain way, and if they don't, it just feels broken, and maybe there's some options to change it, but mostly those conventions are established. So as the same thing with, you know, whatever the technology is, like how does a roguelike work or something like that's a sort of a generative game in a way. There's expectations of what a roguelike is and what players like and then what they don't, and the like more mature it is, the more, you know, that becomes sort of solidified. And then in these newer technology spaces, you're often thrashing around for a while trying to figure out, well, what about this technology could turn into a cool game? What is this thing? And if you like thrash around in the dark, then that's great for you. And some people don't, they like working in more established mediums. So it's really up to developers' choice of what's more important to you.
okay, anybody wants to add something? Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so I will ask another question. How do technological advancements impact the job market in the game industry? And what skills are needed to work with these technologies? What skills you need to have to start working with these technologies?
Yeah, I can start. So the rise of AI definitely raised some questions about what the current specialists will be needed in game development, like artists, concept artists, writers, localization managers, QA managers. And I think that everything that could be automated will be automated. And what cannot be automated, it's kind of human talent and creativity. As been mentioned before, if you pay close attention to the content that has been generated by generative AIs like ChatGPT or Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, it's kind of impressive on a technological level. But when you don't know if it's generated by AI and just judge it as any other media, any other content, it's not that cool. It's tasteless. It's mediocre, and it's just nothing exciting about it, besides the very technology, the very way how it was produced. And there's a joke like AI doesn't have a childhood trauma, so that's why it's the content is not that creative, not that interesting. So I think that ability to ask right questions, like prompt engineering, that's a key skill, and some ability to create cool stories, create something that is exciting for other human beings. That is something that's irreplaceable by AI, but everything else will be automated. So, yeah, many people will lose jobs, but AI will create many other jobs. But they will be completely different. And if people who are currently in these areas that I just mentioned are not paying attention to AI tools, AI developments, they most likely will lose their jobs.
Okay. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, no. I think it reminds me of a little bit is like back in the olden times, you know, all games were written in assembly language, and then they're like, we're going to have this amazing thing. It's going to be called C, and then anyone can program. And then it was like, because assembly was like, you know, little codes and numbers made very unreadable. And then C was like amazingly readable compared to assembly. Now anyone can program. Oh, wait, no, that's okay. Now we're going to have JavaScript. Anyone can program. Oh, wait, no, now we're going to have visual scripting. Now anyone can. And it's like each time it's like, well, yes, this does open it up to a different type of things, lets you solve different problems, but it's still a skill to use it, right? So the biggest skill you can have on your, you know, as people looking for work is the ability to like stay on top of these things, want to adapt to new things, you don't want to be the assembly programmer refusing to learn C because you think it's dumb, right? But, you know, you also don't want to think that C is going to make your job trivial because it's still not. It's still going to be hard. I think, yeah, it ideally, you know, the way to do it, like
I don't know that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs because of AI. I mean, I know it's going to probably just make a lot of jobs easier. And I agree, if you don't know how to use those tools, or you don't start using them, then you might lose your job. But ideally, if the tools can, make it easier to collaborate with engineers and with artists and with writers, that's the key. If the AI makes it easier to do those things, then you're gonna have more successful games, and you're gonna have games that are, more creative, because if you can collaborate more, and it doesn't matter whether you make them fast or slow, right? As long as you have that ability to collaborate, then you're gonna have a better game, right, between all the different specialties.
Okay, thank you. So how can technology be used to create more diverse and inclusive gaming experiences for the players, right?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I mean, there was a talk at GDC about this too, about, just how these algorithms sort of generate towards a sort of generic, the generic is, sort of the white male, but it'd be interesting to see who implements that, right? And who's going to implement the tools that say, okay, well, this isn't inclusive enough, right? The past tools were like, okay, well, this is the data we have, and so you have to kind of gather data from different audiences, right? And so the data that we were gathering was from a very simple, it was a very basic demographic. So as player bases increase, and as we look into other types of players to kind of gather data from, I think that will help do that. And a lot of it is up to the developers too. The developers have to kind of look at what they're creating and what the audience is, and say, hey, we don't just have one audience. There's plenty of other people in the audience. So, and with games, you have the ability, you can recast the main character anytime you want. You can't do that with a movie. You can't watch a movie and say, hey, that guy doesn't represent me. Let's just swap him out. You can't do that. But you definitely can with a game, because in a game, that main player represents you in a way.
Yeah, and I think with the AI models, it's all about the data you're training it on. So if you're, training it only on, literature from Europe or something like that, that's sort of the output you're going to get. And I think as people keep working on different data sets to train it with, they're going to make it, or they're going to make one that specifically says it's biased in this way, or it's from this cultural heritage or this other cultural heritage. And then you as the creator will pick the one you want to use, or you'll want to pick the one that's truly global. And I think there'll be options for that.
Except in Florida, that'll be illegal.
Fair point.
Okay, Ilya, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think currently culture kind of biased because it's created by a limited exclusive group of people, and theoretically using AI should be more unbiased. But the thing is that AI currently is already biased and produced content that is based on cultural landscape that we currently have. So it kind of replicated, our current culture. But it could be, really changed. So if someone has such a mission, it could change the data set, and educate the network, educate tools to be less biased. But it requires some effort to do that intentionally. But I really like the thing about the recasting in some movies, right? For instance, the recent debate about the Little Mermaid been played by a black actress, that was kind of sparked some discussion, and it could be another discussion later on, because you can have whatever characters you want in a movie, and you can adapt movie for every audience, and someone would like them look that way, someone like them different way, and you can adapt and personalize content. And yeah, I think that's totally possible, not just in games, but in movies, in text format, in music, and anywhere.
Okay, thank you very much. So before I ask next questions, do we have any questions from the audience? Okay. So my last questions will be, what predictions do you have for the future of gaming technology, and how do you see it evolving in coming years? What do you think?
So my view is that we will be overflowed with the content, because it become more and more approachable and doable for not uneducated, but not hardly trained people to create content. All the creation tools become super democratic. So anyone can create content, anyone can write a text, and it will be at least readable text. Anyone would be able to create a movie or a game, but in most cases, it would be complete trash. So it would be unenjoyable. So the major challenge for future generations is discoverability and curation of content. So I think that's one of the topics, one of the sectors in technology and development that should be paid attention to. So how can we actually find diamonds in pile of trash?
It's fine.
Well, think about it. We'll come back to you. I think that point is great. There was a science fiction magazine that closed down their submissions recently for a time because they were just flooded by, generative examples that had that sort of, and the problem is when it's good enough that you start reading it and think, well, it's kind of boring so far, but maybe it gets good later, but oh no, it never gets good. And if you're just, and that's fine, they would get, the interesting thing is we were already flooded with content, right? There were already people, flooding submissions of science fiction magazines or flooding Steam or flooding with whatever with games that aren't super good. It's just our ability as players to look at it and go, oh, that doesn't look good, I'm not going to try it. Versus, oh, that does look pretty good. Oh, I got to watch it longer to know. Maybe it'll take me a real long time to find out there's just kind of nothing here. And that's sort of some of the peril of it. I think there's obviously sort of, we haven't talked about like the legal problems with some of the generative models. I think that'll probably get solved by large corporations that get data sets that they've secured the rights to properly, and we'll have to pay them giant licensing fees to use their stuff. So that'll probably get fixed in the not too distant future. So I guess that's something of a prediction. And I do think these things will help game development, but I don't think it's gonna mean, now it used to take 200 people to make Assassin's Creed, now it takes 5. Like that's not happening anytime soon. The 200 people will still be there, they'll just be doing different things.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd say the old rule used to be like, what is it, like 85% of everything is crap, and then there's like 15% that's good. But when you start generating things, right, then when you start auto-generating things, or when you have a platform where everybody can do something, or where there's a lot of submissions, right, then the numbers skew to down to like 1 or maybe 0.5%. So the real problem is going to be like, how do you find better content? How are you going to find it? Is it going to be based on data that people watched this, they found it, but how do those people even find quality content if there's so much stuff? So I think content moderation platforms you might see a rise in it. You might see you might see more of a way to democratize what content you see in some sort of a platform where you could sort of cater it to your needs, and you're sort of rejecting a lot of things that you don't want to see. But yeah, again, that's going to be it's going to be a lot harder to get through to the users and to impress them because we already use so many algorithms for marketing to people and using these things. We have a lot of you'll see a lot of games that are advertised. You see the game, wow, that ad looks so cool. You download the game, it's nothing like that. And I think that's really sort of what's ruined a lot of the markets, like the mobile market and things like that. So.
I sort of feel like I've cheated because we've been using AI for so long, so I have like a little bit better of a prediction, I think. So I agree, I don't think it's gonna really affect like the number of jobs. It's just maybe what you do or where you spend the priority of your time. We've seen that a lot. So we sell a lot to marketing companies, and what we try to explain to them is think of a traditional marketing company 10 years ago. They would decide what campaign they were going to create, what the content of it was going to be, what it was going to say, and who it was going to go to. And it's sort of like you fit into 3 buckets, right? And so their entire customer base or player base would go to these 3 buckets. And now what we're finding is we didn't take anyone's job with our AI tool in marketing, but what they're able to do is now they're able to be more strategic. So we are able to, create all of these hyper segmentations, not 3 segmentations, not 2 or 5 or 25. Now we have hundreds and thousands of segmentations, and you can start with something and it's so personalized that now what we're finding is people want to give their information, because before we just get spammed all the time. But now are like people like, oh, I know that if I give my information and not fake information, real information, I'm going to get things that are very relevant to me that I actually want to see. And so that's what we're seeing a lot with AI. And then the teams that used to do a lot of this more manually, they are able to be far more strategic, really get into, really use the AI to their best benefit. I think we're going to see the same thing in gaming, where, now they're going to have more time to be more creative, right? This is the space of creativity and being able to live in these other worlds and think of these other things that they can bring to the table where their time before was consumed with more manual tasks.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it will be all for today if we don't have any questions from audience. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. You can